Добро утро!
Привет! Привет на всички, които вече ни гледат и на тези, които се присъединяват към нас сега. Виждаме, че сте много. Благодарим за интереса. Ако до сега не сме имали сценична треска, сега имаме.
Добре дошли в ден 2. Както знаете, днес е презентацията на Istituto Europeo di Design с водещ презентатор мистер Андреа Поци. В рамките на 30 на минути той ще изнесе своята презентация, след което ще имаме 10, да кажем 15 минути за въпроси и отговори. Молбата ни е, задавайте своите въпроси в чат секцията, когато сте регистрирани през Zoom, която се намира по средата на екрана в долната част. За тези, които ни гледат във Facebook, здравейте, милиони почитатели. За вас, моля, коментирайте под този лайв, който излъчваме в момента. Записвайте своите въпроси, не се притеснявайте. Най-несрамежливите може да получат награда.
Само да споделя, че ще имате възможност да гледате Андрея 2 пъти днес. След малко, когато той ще представи възможностите за обучение в ID, програмите на английски и италиански, и малко по-късно, когато с Петя Ламбова от Skyline ще ви дадат ценни съвети как да подготвите успешно портфолио за кандидатстване, така че останете до края на програмата ни днес.
А тези, които ужасно много харесват Андрея, искат да се видят с него лично, ще имат такава възможност за one-on-one meeting, който график, за който ще видите в линк в средата или края на презентацията, в чатбокса, ще видите място, през което можете да си резервирате среща лично с Андреа Поци.
И само още едно уточнение, тъй като публиката е голяма, първите от 100 от вас ще имат възможност да се включат в нашата дискусия с камера, да напишат въпросите си писменно в чата. Всички останали ще могат да ни наблюдават без да ползват, да имат достъп до тези функции. По възможност задавайте въпросите на английски, пишете, както каза моята колежка Тинка, в чата, а не в Q&A секцията, за да може да следим едно място. Ще се опитаме да отговорим на всички въпроси и сега даваме думата на Андрея. Благодарим ви, приятно гледане, Андрея.
You have the stage now.
Thank you for being with us. You can start.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone. I am just going to share my screen so that I can talk to you a little bit about ID. ID is Istituto Europeo di Design. As you can tell by the name, of course, we are Italian, and because we've been established in 1965, so more than 50 years ago, and the first campus ever established was in Milan. The concept of our institution was conceived by our founder, Francesco Morelli, who had, at the time, a very particular view of how to approach education in creativity. Well, in these 15 years, we of course grow over the country. So we managed to open 7 campuses actually in Italy. So we are in Milan, in Cagliari, in Turin, in Rome, in Florence. We are even in Como. But also we, as well as we are in Venice. But we are also became an international network because actually there are 2 campuses in Spain, Madrid and Barcelona, as well as in Brazil. We are, in fact, also in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Of course, when we became an international network, we also opened our doors to all our international students that we welcome nowadays. And to do so, we started teaching in English as well. So it's very important for you to know that if you're interested in studying with us, you can choose a study career path completely taught in English. So what was the unique vision that had Francesco Morelli when he decided to found our institution? Well, first of all, he wanted to establish the campuses where let's say the business is done, where the industry is actually based. Why so? Well, because let's say that in each territory, and if you think about it, this is a little bit how Made in Italy works. In each territory, there is an intrinsic set of know-how and values and practices that are very the characteristic of that specific territory. And so we want to bond with those characteristics, with that know-how, so that we can bring it inside the classes, and we can only do it if we are in the same place. So we chose the campus just about now, not just because they are in very beautiful places. We are, as a concept, we always want to be in the city centers in each city in which we have a campus, but also because there are industries, creative industries based there. And an example of this know-how, for example, you can see it in Pierpaolo Piccioli, who's the art director of Valentino, of how you can combine your tradition, your know-how, and put it into your creativity. We chose, of course, his works because he is a graduate of ID. So this is also an example of what and who you can become by choosing an education in ID. But of course, how do we bond as well with the creative industries? Well, we don't believe in the academic approach. Let's say we don't like the students to just be learning by the book. So how do we want to structure the academic life? Well, first of all, we want our students to be able to structure projects. So we want to give them and establish a project culture. Sorry, this is because this is how you present your ideas to the companies. This is how you manage to get your product, your service, your creativity to get actually on the market. So you have to be able to structure your thoughts and your creativity into real projects. But it's not just a real project. Well, this is, for example, a very specific example of one of the special projects that we run with IKEA. In this case, we always want to do this particular kind of cooperations. But let's say that we'd like to do this project. This was a project in which the students actually had to, let's say, update the furniture, series furniture from IKEA, taking inspiration from their own culture. This was a project which was run in ID Cagliari, Sardinia, and those that you see are Sardinian traditional decorations. So this is how, a very perfect example of you have an idea, you have an artistic approach, you have a creative approach, and you put it into action with your local culture, and also with a project, specific project. Also, in order to be, very, let's say, not to go away from the traditional learning methodology, we don't like only theoretical approach when it comes to education in creativity. We want our students to, put their hands at work. So this is very important that our students pass a lot of time in our laboratories, crafting and putting into practice everything they've learned in theory. Again, the laboratories are an important part of our students' life. So learning by doing this kind of approach. And also, we talked about being very practical. We talked about structuring project. We talked about taking inspiration from your, local culture, local identity. But we want to do all this along with the industry itself. So this is why that we involved companies, big companies, small companies, but it's very important all the time that our students can work on projects that are not just made up for the occasion. They're not just academically made up in order to to do a small accomplishment or to learn their lessons. It's just and also because they need to learn with a real business need. And with real players, because actually whenever we involve a company, the students will work directly and will present their final ideas to the decision makers of the company itself. They will work for months along with them and have the chance to get a feedback for what they've done directly from the industry leaders. And this is an example of one of the projects that we've run with Adidas on their retail store. So this is very, interesting because it's not just changing a store, it's studying the brand DNA and transform this DNA into something physical, and in this case into an experience of the brand through interior design. So this is, again, it's a great example of a great project with a big company, with big names and the big opportunities for our students as well. Well, this is just a small representation of some of the companies that we've been working with during the past few years. Of course, there's many more, and I don't think there's the need from my side to introduce to those brands because they can present them by themselves, let's say. But just to give you an idea of the kind of project and the kind of cooperations that we are able to put into action for our students. And of course, we are a design school, Istituto Europeo di Design, which means, design, let's say, means many different fields and many different applications, let's say. So we also have a lot of courses to offer that we, for simplicity, we tend to group in different departments. Actually, we call them schools, okay? So we have, of course, the School of Art and Restoration, very more traditional, let's say, side of design. Then we have the School of Fashion, the School of Design, design with with an Italian mindset, because while in English design means it's a very general word, in Italian it's something very specific, and it means a subject like interior design, for furniture design, product design, or even transportation design. And then we have sorry, the School of Communication and Management, as well as Visual Arts and Communication. Let's say communication could mean something like business design, for example, so more business and strategy and brand oriented, while visual arts would be more towards subjects like graphic design, for example. In fashion, I didn't mention it, but we really have many different opportunities like fashion styling, fashion design, jewelry design, or fashion marketing even. So we really have let's say, all the business covered, all the categories covered, let's say. And of course, for us, ID, I've told you many different aspects, very, very valid, very objective, good aspects. But also for us, it's very important to say that ID, Istituto Europeo di Design, is made first by people. Okay, and when we mean people, of course, we refer to all the students that we are currently welcoming in our premises, but also all our former students as well. We have more than 120,000 students that studied with us, and every year the count increases. So we really are a big, huge network. And of course, if the students are the starting point, we cannot not mention our professors that are the very core of our unique approach, innovative approach. Why so? Well, because they are not just academic professors. I told you before that we don't necessarily like just being too much academic or too much theoretical. So we want for our students the best of the industry. So our professors are also professionals that would lead our students with how the market is developing and how the market is heading, where the market is heading. So they would guide them and give them a real life feedback, let's say, direct insights directly from the industry. But as well, I've told you we have a huge network of students. So at some point we decided that this network had a really great big value for the students, because when you have to know that whenever you choose ID, whenever you become an ID student, it's like being part of a family. Okay, so you can go anywhere in the world, but you never leave your family. So this is why we wanted to keep all our students all connected. We wanted to give them the chance to, continue doing projects together, doing business together, giving them opportunities, and we wanted to keep talking to them and giving support to their future careers, also when they were not anymore in our campuses. So we created a platform, an alumni platform that would give to them all these opportunities. And then this is another plus of studying with Istituto Europeo di Design. And talking about the alumni, I've mentioned Pierpaolo Piccioli, creative director of Valentino, but I can mention also Maria Grazia Chiuri, who's the creative director of Dior. We have many other graduates. If you're passionate about Scandinavian interior design, you should check out Note Design Studio, whose founder, well, one of the founder is Daniel Heckscher, and he studied with us. For example, Daniel Nikolovsky or Francesco Murano. Francesco Murano, why do you see Beyonce there? Well, because the dress that you see, it's exactly the one that was conceived by Francesco Murano and wore by Beyonce. Well, let's say that this is a very interesting story, because he was posting his creations on Instagram, and the stylist who was in charge of dressing Beyonce saw the collection, fell in love with the collection, and contacted Francesco in order to send it to her so that it could be used in one of her events. Well, it's you don't need necessarily to become a big name to do big accomplishment, and this is something that ID can give you, this kind of opportunity. This is to tell you, to show you a little bit what happened, the story of Francesco. He managed actually to have her dress at one of the events, but also this is a shot from the movie clip The Lion King, and she's wearing Francesco Murano's shoes. So they actually stop the making of the video clip to wait for the shoes to arrive. So, but again, and he was just a graduate. This is a picture on the very left from his graduate show. So again, you do not need to become, you have the means. If you use them correctly, if you learn how to use them correctly, you can really reach big accomplishment. But despite of that, we really have alumni all over the world, in Bulgaria as well, as you can see. But our students are really working a lot on their careers and really reaching big accomplishments. Of course, I told you before, we have lots of courses. We talked about the fields in which you can study. You can also have different experiences with us, because you can choose an undergraduate course, validated, so an official BA, so you can stay with us for 3 or 4 years. You can come with us to study for a master, or if you just want to have a foundation course to, strengthen your design thinking approach, or made in Italy approach, then you can come for the very basics. You can study for a summer course. You can choose a semester with us, or even study for shorter courses. So we really have a huge list of possibilities and chances to study with us. The application, well, let's say first of all that Skylines is working with us. We are cooperating with them since more than 15 years, I think, and let's say that they can guide you through the choice of the typology, of course, but also in all the steps of the application. So I would suggest for specific information to talk directly to them, so they can help you every step of the way. They can also give you all the information about financial aid, because we have lots of opportunities also in from this side, let's say. Well, but let's say that first of all, what I wanted to tell you is that if you're choosing an undergraduate course, you do not necessarily need to have any previous experience. So let's say that with an undergraduate course, we can really pick you from, without experience, the first year it's going to be very much about a sort of foundational, the very basics, and then we will bring you to a more professional level as the years pass. But let's say that it's quite easy to apply. Ask Skylines for more details. Facilities, we've talked before how important are the laboratories for us. So you can see there some example of our photography lab, or we have lots of, we have a textile library, just to give you some idea of the opportunities. We have fab labs, so we have 3D printers. If you study jewelry or transportation design, you have the chance to work with clay or to work with wax, the materials for the jewelry. It's really, every subject has its own specific know-how that you can really develop on a practical side as well. And of course, we have several services, softwares you can use while studying with us. How to get in connections with us? Well, first of all, there are many different ways. We do have open days. These days are going to be mostly online, but we hope to welcome you for open days very soon, also physically. Usually we travel again. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to be there. I'm not able to be there physically in front of you today, but soon again we will start traveling and meeting you face to face, and also you can gather information online. But most importantly, you can ask Skylines for to get in connections with us. And this is some of the a very short example of all the open days that we've organized in the past, but just to give you a small idea. So whenever we want to invite you in, to discover us, we want to give you specific experiences and special experiences to come and visit us. But at the same time, we also take part in many different events, and you can see here some of the events that we take part in. Again, we travel the whole world to spread the word of Istituto Europeo di Design. Another opportunity that you have to get in connection with us is actually right now, because starting from today, I can share with you my Calendly link on the chat. Let's say, just 1 second. And you can. For you. Okay, no, I've done it. I managed. Sorry. Yeah. Well, let's say that you can book a one-on-one meeting with me. It's going to be for today. There are some slots, but it's not just for today. Also, in the next few weeks, if you want to have a specific conversation, if you want to talk about your own experience, your own doubt, I will be happy to talk to you in person. And now if you have questions, or I will be happy to answer them all.
Andrea, there was one question. Yerkan is asking if it is possible to apply for more than one program.
Actually, no, in the sense that I know that you might be undecided, but it's one of the aspects that we take into consideration while selecting a candidate. It's also the motivation. So this is one of the main reasons I would not suggest to apply to two programs at the same time. It's okay for you to be still undecided or to have some doubts, but I am sure you will have one that is more, even if slightly it's more preferred rather than the other. Go for that. If you change your mind, don't worry. If you already went through the application process and you were accepted in one course and then you change your mind, you can tell us and we will make an adjustment and without redoing the whole process from the beginning. But let's say that it's always best to apply for one course at a time.
And can we arrange something like a meeting, one-on-one meeting to discuss which program would be best for us if we are considering two options, for example?
Yes, of course. The Calendly, it's there also for these kind of doubts.
Okay, and another question is, what is the difference between undergraduate and postgraduate?
Well, undergraduate, it's, you know that the academic cycle in Europe is structured over 5 years. It's bachelor's the first 3 years and usually master's the last 2 years. So when we talk about undergraduate, we talk about the first 3 years of your university education. So bachelor's, BAH and so on. Whenever you talk about postgraduate, we talk everything that you do after your bachelor degree, and you need a bachelor degree in 90% of the cases, well, 95 probably, to access to a postgraduate course.
And another question, it's actually two questions the same. What are the tuition fees?
Tuition fees may vary depending from the typology of course that you apply to and the campus that you apply to. Let's say that there's a wide range. They could go, from 8,000 euros till 17,000, 19,000 euros. Why I'm saying this big range? Because especially for European students, for undergraduate, for example, we have ways of lowering our fees depending from the family income. It's something, that it's quite complex to explain in detail, so we can do it in a one-on-one meeting eventually, but it's a great opportunity because you really can cut down your fees in half, let's say.
Can you read the question? It is about scholarship. If you can tell us more about what kind of scholarships there are.
Yeah, we do have scholarships that we tend to give. Well, we give scholarship to talent, let's say. So we organize usually a couple of contests during the year. Stay tuned because there's one who is about to be published before Christmas. So let's say that in a couple of weeks, we will have information about this contest. Let's say that we usually give a brief to the students, which is different depending from the typology, the course they want to apply to, fashion rather than interior, than transportation design, but with the same theme, with a different declination, let's say. We ask the students to provide an original work, an original project, and then the best ones get a 50% scholarship usually. There's usually many consolation prizes, so it's always worth to go for the scholarship. Again, especially for the undergraduate, we do not need to have previous experience, so do not be worried if you don't feel super skilled in subjects like drawings or images manipulations in general. Go for the idea, concentrate on the idea and do your best. Don't be worried because you still have great opportunities.
And when would you suggest the students to apply for the scholarship, for the tuition fees, lowering based on family income, are there other opportunities to decrease the fees?
Well, there's of course we usually have early bird discount for those who apply early. But applying early, it's my advice all the time. Whenever you do the application, we do not have deadlines. So whenever you can do the application at the beginning of the years, and you will still have the opportunity to think about it. But if you start your application before Christmas, usually, so October, right now, it would be a very good moment to apply and to start your application. You find out soon enough if you're accepted or not, and then you have access to a whole set of opportunities, those that we've just talked about. So early bird discounts, scholarship contests, possibilities of lowering the fees. I mean, we have several, opportunities throughout the years. The sooner you start your application, the more opportunities you have in this sense.
And there is another question, if possible, to provide more details about the application procedure itself. Not only when it should be started, but also how it is done. What kind of documents, where to deliver them. And then another question we have from a possible master student is asking if, because she's not feeling very comfortable with her knowledge so far, if she's taking different courses, summer, winter, or one-year semester programs as well, would this be evaluated in her favor for applying for a master?
Yes, so definitely in this sense, usually it's a good, it's always a good show. Okay, for the masters, I'm starting from for the last questions, and then I will explain the general application process. For the masters, while for the undergraduate, we do not need any previous experience. For the majority of our masters, not all, but the majority of our masters, we do. So what you have to do is to show off how skilled you are in this case. So throughout your portfolio, you should present us a project which has many different characteristics, the research, the preliminary research, the execution. So using all the softwares involved in there, all the technical details. So the more you can show, the best it is. Of course, you can also show project that you've done in groups with other students. It's important in this case to specify exactly what you did, what you made in this in those projects, so that we can have a better understanding of your background. Okay. Let's say the general application process, and I'm talking about the general one because again, this might vary a little bit depending from the typology, of course, or the destination that you apply to. But let's say that in general, to apply, we need bureaucratic documentation, so your ID, passport, and to sign some papers, let's say. But then we need for you to write a motivational letter, and then to structure either a small portfolio that could be a very classical one showing your drawings or sketches and so on, or also if you do not have this kind of portfolio, you can turn to us. We can give you some brief so that you can do small project on developing the brief that we give you. Why do we do that? Because we do select the students not necessarily depending from one specific aspect, but we do an evaluation at 360 degrees, let's say, taking into consideration several aspects. If you apply for a bachelor, you should have a high school diploma. If you apply for a master's, you should have a bachelor degree in general. So you also have to include that. We will take into consideration your academic performance as well as your approach to creativity and your motivation. Okay. How do we do this? Whenever you submit all the documents, you usually go through 2 interviews. The first one is called Motivational Interview. It's through Skype. So it's quite easy to access it, let's say. It's through Skype. It's a conversation with someone from the academic department of the course, so that you can talk more in depth about your knowledge of the course, your motivation, as well as your let's say your portfolio and motivational letter and so on. Once you've done with the first interview, you go for another interview. It's always through Skype, and it's called a language interview. If you study with ID, you usually have 3 options, depending, the changes of courses depending from your destination. You can choose to study in English, you can choose to study in Italian, or you can choose to study in Spanish. Okay, so if you're not mother tongue in one of these 3 languages, you will have to prove your language proficiency. So this second interview, has the purpose of establishing your fluency in English, in Italian, or in Spanish, depending from the course where you apply to. Usually it's English. So it's a conversation. Again, you do not have to be worried about it, because it's a conversation like we're having right now. Not having, but you know, like we're doing right now. And you just have to speak for 15 minutes pretty much with our teacher, language teacher, so that we can assess your level. The level we're looking for, it's a B2 for your knowledge. When you finish with the second process, the second interview, in the span of few days, you usually get a feedback if you are accepted or not, okay? If you are accepted, you will receive an acceptance document. You will receive an offer from us, which you can decide to confirm right away or whenever you feel most comfortable in doing so. However, you have to know that we do not have unlimited access because we tend to accept more than, more students than the one that we can welcome. It's the rule in this case, it's first come, first served. So the first, usually 25 students per class, the first 25 students who make up their mind and they say, okay, I've got an offer from you, so I want it in, those are the ones who are going to be enrolled. So again, another reason to apply early during the year. You have more chances, you can think more about your opportunities in this sense.
We had another question about the portfolio, if it's going to be an advantage, even if the student doesn't have any previous experience in the field. Should he or she present something, and what type of portfolio is required?
As I was saying, you can decide, you have to present something even if you do not have any previous experience. Again, it's not important for a bachelor degree, it's not such important the execution, it's important the creativity approach and the ideas. You can also use different means, okay, different techniques, sorry, the ones that are that you feel most comfortable with. And usually you can go for 2 options. Again, you can either choose to have a very classical portfolio, and by very classical, I really mean you take your art, if you take art classes, you take a recollection, a selection of your art pieces, painting, sketches, if you draw, if you sketch profession, your sketches, if you do interior design, your project, if you do transportation design, your ideas about, cars, motorcycles, yacht, and so on. And then you scan them, or you have to apply with a digital portfolio. So you make them digital and you submit it. Otherwise, we can give you some some direction. We have different, let's say, brief that you can choose, and you can develop a small project upon the brief that we provide. I hope this was clear. Otherwise, but I think no, we will have. There's gonna be also a portfolio presentation later, so it's a good opportunity to follow that as well.
Yes, I would say it in Bulgarian, just to be sure everybody understands, right? Малко по-късно днес от 2:30 заедно с Андрея ще направим презентация относно портфолиото и се надяваме там да можем да отговорим на всичките въпроси, какво да включите в едно портфолио, как да го подготвите, в кой формат, дали да бъде PowerPoint презентация, PDF или вебсайт. Така че ще се радваме да ви видим отново в 2:30 днес. И вече ще влезем в детайли за всичките програми, било то за мода, за дизайн или за графичен дизайн. Така че ще се радваме отново да ви видим там. Имаме още един въпрос за сертификата за английски език и интервюто за установяване на познанията по английски или италиански или испански език. Всъщност, ако вече имате сертификат, който все още е валиден, той може да бъде приложен и тогава интервюто всъщност е само едно. Това, което е мотивиращото интервю. Ако нямате сертификат за владеене на английски език, това не трябва да ви спира, за да подадете своята кандидатура. След като бъдат разгледани всички документи, ще бъде назначено скайп интервю, точно с тази цел да сме сигурни, че вашите познания по езика са достатъчни, за да може да се обучавате на него.
Perfect.
Clear?
All clear.
Други въпроси ще се радваме да отговорим. Да. Срещата с Политехнико Ди Милано приключи. Малко по-късно днес ще има среща с езиков център Lingua Viva и там ще стане въпрос за кандидатстване в бакалавърска програма в Политехнико. Иначе може да видите презентацията в Facebook страницата ни. Имаше живо предаване, както и всички презентации ще бъдат изпратени на малко по-късен етап на тези, които не сте успели да присъствате. След мъничко ще започне следващата презентация и ще изпратя линка, с който може да се включите в нея тук. Така. Има ли срокове за подаване на документи онлайн? If there are deadlines to provide documents for application, maybe I will say it in Bulgarian just to be sure again that everything is clear. Няма крайни срокове за подаване на документи. Както Андрея каза, колкото по-рано го направим, толкова по-добре. Така ще знаем за всички възможности за отстъпки за ранно записване, програми за стипендии, както ще имаме и достатъчно време да подготвим финансови документи, с които да намалим таксата за обучение. Чувствайте се свободни да изпратите вашите документи в момента, в който сте сигурни, че сте готови за тази стъпка. Иначе може да се кандидатства и до лятото до година, ако това е желанието ви за прием в академията от 2021, но за всяка една програма има ограничен брой места. Когато те се запълнят, съответно приключва и кандидатстването за нея. Тук що изпратих линк за следващата презентация. Имаме въпрос. There is a question, Andrea. Can the portfolio be like a short movie?
Yes, of course. It's actually a very nice creative approach to show. So again, if you're feeling very comfortable in, shooting small movies and such, use that. Maybe you can find a way to present your short clip, but in any case, it's a very good way of showing your creativity.
If the recording of this session will be available for further references, yes. And you can always contact me, Andrea, or the whole Skylines team for any questions you have, any support you might need. Feel free to contact us.
I can also re-link the Calendly appointments, let's say. So you can follow this link and take one-on-one meetings with me. We can involve also Petya. There are some slots today and also in the coming weeks. So if you want, I'm available.
Andrea, it looks like your presentation was very clear.
Yes, exactly. It's good. Next time I'm gonna tell less information, so we have more questions.
No. Keep it like that. It was very informative, I believe. But again, I will say it in Bulgarian. Ние сме на разположение, така че ако имате някакви въпроси, за които се притеснявате да попитате тук в чата, ще се радваме да отговорим на тях. Може да ги задавате по имейл или по телефона в офиса. Както Андрея каза, изпрати линк към персонални срещи с него онлайн, които може да запишете. Още от днес има свободни часове, както и през следващите седмици, така че ако имате колебания за някои от програмите, които предлага Istituto Europeo di Design, или искате да разберете повече за това какви опции има за намаляване на таксата за обучение, може да запишете своята среща с него. А ние отново ще бъдем заедно в 2:30, за да направим презентацията за портфолио, какво да включим в него и как да представим себе си креативно. Така че ще се радваме отново да се видим там.
Okay.
Ами, благодарим на всички.